This conference will now be recorded.
Hope my screen is visible right now.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So are you practicing the task which we are discussing in the sessions? The properties, actually the important things are the properties. So in SSIS, the only configuration of the properties is all about. So for each and every task, there are some properties which we have to configure.
Yes, but I'm unable to spend more time on practicing, ma'am. Actually, I'm busy with some other thing.
Because unless until you do the practice, you'll forget the properties and the means of the properties, which things we have to configure for each and every task. Okay.
Okay. Okay, ma'am.
Yeah. So today is the seventh day for this session. So for
Ma'am,
today,
totally in the email you mentioned as a totally 15 hours.
I mentioned, yeah, it's like
It's a T mentioned as a 15 hours of class.
okay. Yeah, it's anyways. I'll be providing you all the documents. I think it
Okay.
may extend one day or 2 days like that, based on the topics we cover.
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah.
Okay.
And for the automation part, right, we need to spend some time on that. So I want to explain you the automation of this,
Okay.
automation of SSIS.
Okay. Ma'am, how we can share one package with another and how we can do the parallel work on same package in SSIS.
You want to share it, means you can give the package file itself. So you want to work on, like, what do you want? What is the requirement exactly?
Uh, Two members are working parallelly on the same package.
So you want to work on the same package. Both the users want to
Mm,
work on the same package.
yes.
Okay. So you want to sign into the Visual Studio, but why like that? So it will be conflict, right, on the same package if we both work on it.
Okay, conflict, but we can share the tasks.
So you can share the task, put it in a
Mm-hmm.
separate package, or do it individually and then integrate it. Instead of doing it in one package, like
Okay.
accessing one package by multiple users,
Mm-hmm.
right? You can do it separately and integrate it. That's the easiest thing you can do.
Okay.
Otherwise, although like Visual Studio is generally a slow thing. When
Mm.
you work, when a single user works on it, you have to create a multiple instances. Backend memory will be increasing at it. And at the same time, if the same package is being used by multiple users, it will like headache for us. It's very slow. It will be going very slow. So instead of that, do it individually and then
Mm-hmm.
integrate.
Okay. Okay. Uh, Ma'am, not parallelly means I would like to share my entire project with another person.
You can give the copy solution folder to them.
Okay.
So or else we have the thing like deployment. That is what deployment comes in, wherein they can take wherever you deploy your project, they can take from there itself. They can export from there. So
Okay.
as of now, we didn't go into the deployment. So the package is not deployed yet. So at that point of time, you can just share the folder, copy or solution
Okay.
folder, and give it to them.
Okay.
So ideally, it should be done with the help of deployment itself. So when we deploy into our SQL Server,
Mm-hmm.
Normally when we deploy, right, it will come into your integration services catalog. So there
Okay.
is called integration services catalog. It will be deployed here. So
Okay.
if other user want to have a latest copy of the solution, they can extract from here. They can export it from here. So it's
Okay.
like a platform, single source platform.
Okay.
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 So if your package is not deployed, then share your solution to them.
Okay.
So that is what
Okay.
I want to take a more time on the deployment and the automation part of it.
Okay.
So today's agenda will be on the DBA task. We'll go through some DBA tasks which are there in the control flow, and then the containers, what are the containers and all variables and parameters, and then the breakpoint and checkpoint. So the breakpoint and checkpoint we avoid, we ignore in the real-time scenarios, but we should be aware of these things, the breakpoint and checkpoint. Okay, in the interview
Okay.
questions, they are based on this breakpoint and checkpoint itself.
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah. So before we go into the container, let's go through some DBA tasks in the control flows. So we have the DBA task like backup of database. So we instead of doing a backup manually, so we can have a task here directly. It will create a backup of the database. Backup type, even we can mention the backup type, is it is a full or is it only for the transaction log or it is for the differential backup. So we can
Hmm.
consider the backup type options, and we can select the databases also, which database we want to back it up, and then to where we want to back up. Is it to a URL? Is it to a disk? So the options are available here. So we can create a subdirectory. We can create, this is a backup file extension. Whenever we create a backup .bak file will be created. So the one which we do in the SSMS, right, backup of database. So this thing we can do it on the SQL Server itself, sorry, SSIS itself. The single task will what it will do is it will take a backup of the existing database. Okay, so
Okay.
this also we do not use as a developer. So it
Mm-hmm.
comes under the requirements. So if we have a requirement to do a backup inside a SSIS, then we'll be using it.
Okay.
The other thing is like the history cleanup. So cleans up history, the backups and restore histories, the SQL agent job history. So we have a job history. So when in the SQL Server agent, right? So if in the SQL Server agents, we have a job configured. So for those jobs, every day, if it is scheduled to run every day, so it will run every day, and the logs are maintained in the history. Like what are the log means when the job has started, when it ended, what is the failure
Hmm.
message, if it is a success, then how much time it took. So those logging things are stored in the history for the job.
Okay.
So those things, if we want to remove it, we want to clean it up, maintenance plan, everything, we can use this task, history cleanup task, and we can even put the cutoff dates also, like it should be of 4 weeks or it should be 5 weeks. And the date things we can put it here. So it's a simple
Ma'am,
thing.
can you Can you explain me in practical?
I cannot delete practically right now. Just you, that is what I'm showing it. If I create a new connection here,
Mm.
just creating a new connection. Double dots, you know. Yeah, so I've connected to my local system.
Okay.
A local system, if I select all these things and if I want to remove historical data older than 4 weeks, so whatever data it is there older than 4 weeks, it will delete it off. If I say okay, and if I click execute, what it will do is it will clean back the history things, everything.
Okay, that particular database.
Yeah, only for that particular database. So I have created for my local. That means in the SSMS, if I see for the local host, I have these
Mm.
many databases. And
Okay.
one, I do not have any job here. So if
Okay.
I do have a job, then it will remove the job history also. If you see, it is disabled. You do not have a job.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so these
Okay.
maintenance plans, everything will be deleted from
Mm-hmm.
this.
Okay.
It's like deleting a temp files kind of thing. So it will delete all those things. Just
Okay.
what you want to is you want to configure. You have to configure the connection itself, nothing else. No more configuration is required. Only you have to connect to the server wherein the database is there. That's it. Even
Okay.
if you want to like view the T-SQL part of it, you can view. This is how we write in a SQL part.
Mm.
So this is what the execution of the system SP is called when we run the task. MSDB. So MSDB is database, DBO. So these are the SPs which are system created databases. So these will be called whenever we execute that task. SP underscore delete underscore backup history, and then the purging job history and the maintenance delete log. So these are all whatever the SPs we have received, these are all system created SPs, not the user defined SPs or user created SPs. Okay.
Okay.
So so this is the CT SQL equivalent of that task.
Okay.
Okay, so this is the date which comes where this is the date which is coming from this part. The remove 4 weeks. If I put 1 week itself and I view to SQL, it will take it as
One
the
week.
date will be 1 week itself, 14/4. Got
Okay.
it? Yeah. Only just these three SQL statements, the C execute statements will be running behind this task. It's a simple task.
Okay. Okay. No input port is required. Input and
No
output.
input is required. Only we have to do the connection. We have to give the connection of the server and the database itself. Which database we want to do it. That's it. Or
Okay.
else this is on high level thing. So normally we do not do these things, right? These things will be taken care by the DBS.
Mm.
If in case if we want to do it, we should be aware of these things.
Okay.
So one more is rebuild index stars, reorganize index stars. So we can reorganize. Mm, transfer database, transfer jobs. So what is transfer database? So if I want to transfer one database from one server to other server, Okay, so I want to transfer, like I want to copy from the database existing in the one server. Show it here. So I am in my local system. So I can connect to another server and I want to copy the Adventure Works 2019 from this server to a other server. Okay, I just want to move or I just want to copy. Then I have to use this transfer database. What it will do is we have to give the source connection first. What is the source connection from for which existing database is there, and destination connection to where I want to transfer my present database. It's just a transferring database from one server to other server. That's it. It will
Okay.
not do anything else. Okay. And like for the transfer database, is the same thing for the transfer job also. If I have a job, suppose I have created one job here. I have a job in my local system. Now I want to transfer the job to a other server or UAT server, the testing server or the
Okay.
development server. This is in my local. So I want to transfer the job details, everything into a development server. Then I can
Okay.
use the transfer job task. Here it will ask me just a source connection and the destination connection. That's it. So what
Okay.
this means if the object exists. So it will check if the job is already there in the destination or not. If the job is already there in the destination, it will fail the task, and if it is not there in the destination, it will succeed. Or we have one more option. If the job is already present in the destination, then we can overwrite it with the latest version. Okay, so these
Okay.
options we have to mention whether we want to override the existing job in the destination or we want to fail it,
Mm,
or even if we can skip it. If we skip it, so it will be renamed as a new job in the destination.
okay.
It's the same thing when we copy and paste files on the folders, right? It will ask us if you want to overwrite
Yes,
it
ma'am.
or if you want, yeah, the same thing happens here. That's
Okay.
it's regarding a job and then rebuilding index and reorganizing index. So, for the DBS, right, whenever like index size increases on the database or index size increases on the table levels, so they will have a check every every 1 week or every monthly they will have a check. The database DBS will have a check whether the index size is increasing or not. The fragmentation of the index is increasing or not. So whenever the index size is increasing or whenever DBS see that a simple query is taking a long time, it shouldn't take that much of time, then they will just like analyze what is the root cause of it, and then they want to do is rebuild the index. They want to rebuild the index to increase the performance of the database or to increase the performance of the simple queries. At that point
Mm,
of time, if they want to rebuild index, there is a simple script also. And if you want to do it in SSIS, we can do it with this task, rebuild index task. Here also we have to give the connection and the database. So I have given this database. Okay. The object table selection for which table I want to rebuild index.
okay.
Rebuilding index means indexes are already there. I'm just rebuilding it again so that the cache will be removed. Okay. If I so
Okay.
these all things I can put options, the fragmentation part, what I was telling, the page count of each index, all these things which are related to DBS. So everything can be configured here. And if you want to have a view of the SQL part of it,
Mm,
alter index, rebuild partition, alter index, rebuild. So this is the T-SQL part of the rebuild index task.
Mm.
Normally even for the DBAs also, they will be executing the statement itself. Instead of doing an SSIS, they will be building a statement, and if they want it to automate it, right? So every hour or every day or weekly once or monthly once, they want to rebuild index. Then what we can do is we can create a task here. We can create a task here and then schedule. We can create a task and schedule it as a job. What it will do, the job will run weekly once or monthly once as we define. Okay. So this can be done when we want to automate the rebuilding index task, when we want to schedule it on a daily basis. So in the same case for reorganizing index also, we want to reorganize the index. Connect to database. It will ask me. So it's the same thing for the rebuild also. So before rebuilding the index, a DBA will reorganize the index. And if reorganization doesn't help, doesn't increase the performance, they will then go into a rebuilding index. Okay. So this is the flow they follow for in the indexes if they want to increase the database and the query performances. So before rebuilding, a reorganization is done. If reorganization doesn't help, then only they will go into a rebuilding. So directly they won't go into a rebuilding of index. So these are the things for the DBA task we have. Shrink. We can even shrink the database size.
Okay.
Then there is, we can transfer SQL Server objects. It's the same kind of thing the way we do with the database. Source connection, source database, destination connection, destination database. If we want to copy all the objects or not. Okay, so those things. Copy
Okay.
schema. If we want to copy schema, if you don't want to copy schema, it's false. So the same thing with some more options here. That's it. Okay, so these are all comes under database administration part. Okay, so let's go into our developer task. So, okay, suppose I have a data flow task. Create one flow, one simple flow with a destination. LDB destination. So I've created one a simple data flow task. Okay. So after data flow task, I want to have one more task. Execute SQL. Let's see. So I have added one more execute SQL task after data flow task. What does this mean? Once the data flow task is completed, then the execute SQL task will be run.
Executed. Yes.
Yeah, it will be executed. So now suppose I have a similar kind of things. There is one more data flow task like this,
Mm-hmm.
which are independent with to each other.
Okay.
I have a 3 sets of data flow tasks like this. As of now, they are
Okay.
independent with each other. Okay. So to group
Mm.
these tasks, so this is one grouping, this is second grouping, this is third grouping. So group this task, I'll be using a sequence container. So what I want to do is, my requirement is, after executing this, I want to execute this.
Mm.
Okay, after
Okay.
this, I want to execute this. Now, if in the plain scenario, right, I cannot do that. The sequence I cannot do. I cannot, instead of creating like this, this is very it is not neatly explained or neatly viewed. So this is not the way I want to do it. So what I
Okay.
can do is, can group I can group the task with the help of a sequence container. We have a containers. We have 3 types of containers: for loop, for each loop, and a sequence. Now, let's see what the
Okay.
sequence container does. I created a sequence container. I'll insert the task, both the tasks inside a sequence container, and I can name it as a sequence container 1.
Okay.
Okay. In the same way, I can create one more sequence container. Create one more sequence container. Sequence container 2.
Okay.
So I have sequence container 1, container 1, container 2, and container 3.
Mm.
Now I can give
Okay.
a flow. After this, so what it will do, it's just a grouping. I'm grouping the task. I'm grouping my task and all the task, right? In
Mm.
one single platform where I can have an easy look at what this container have. So after this container will be executed, and after this, the third container will be executed.
Ma'am,
Yes,
uh, I would like to run the second container without executing first container. It is possible?
you have to disable it.
No,
So if you
without
want
disabling.
to have the, yeah, so then you if you don't want to run the first container,
Mm.
you remove the sequence, you remove the flow. So what is this
Okay.
flow? This is precedence constraint. I'll show you. Right click on it, right click on the container. You have a
Mm.
add precedence constraint. So what does this do? The flow, it will control the flow and tell the flow from container 1. After executing the container 1, where should what should be running executing next? I can put
Oh.
like this. So
Mm-hmm.
here, so after 1, the 3 will be executed, not 2. Okay, I'm again showing it. Right click on the
Mm.
container, add precedence constraint from container 1. After executing the container 1, what should be my next execution? I can select from here. If I put 3, so what it will do is after executing container 1, it will execute container 3.
Okay.
Okay. So at the same time, I can
Okay.
like I can create the flows like this. This is called precedence constraint. So after which container I should
Mm.
add one more container. So these all this comes under the precedence constraint. We can configure that. If I want to
Okay.
let me click on the container 2. So what I have done, so after executing container 2, container 1 will be executed.
Mm.
Okay, so this is how we'll be configuring the precedence constraints. And if we
Okay.
do not put
So,
any precedence constraints like this, they are independent.
mm.
They are independent sequence containers, right? So these 3 will be
Mm.
executed not in a sequential manner.
Yes.
All the 3 containers will be executed parallel. And if we want like that, that can also we can do it. Like if you want to run all the
Okay.
containers parallelly, instead of waiting and instead
Mm.
of going in a sequential manner, we can do it.
Okay.
Okay, let's go to the. Give me 1 minute.
Okay.
So here, what is the definition? It comes like the sequence container in SSIS is using for grouping the tasks together. So here we can summarize and we can define the variables also under the scope of task inside a sequence container. We can have a flexibility to manage the task in a container. So this is all about sequence container. When we want to group it up or we want to have a precedence constraint, then we can do it. The sequencing the task, we can do it in this way. So this is more the view is more compact one, right? Even a layman can understand, okay, this is one grouping of tasks, this is a bunch of tasks which has to be happen at one time, and this is the other bunch of tasks which has to be happen in the next, or if it is connected, it has to be happen in a sequential way. So this is how a layman can also understand if we group like this. Okay, so this is a simple uses of sequential container, sequence container. So we have one more container. We have one container which is called for loop container. Which for loop? So you know the loop. You know the loop, right? In C sharp or
Yes, ma'am.
the while loop condition. So it is nothing but a while loop thing. What it will do is, in my for loop, I will have a 3 property: the initial property, evaluation property, and the assigning expression. What does this 3 means? The initial is, if I have a variable, suppose I have a variable 1, I have created a variable 1, I'll assign it as a, I have created a, normally how do we write a while loop? We'll declare a variable first, then we assign a value to a variable first. So then we assign a variable value to a variable, and then we write a while loop. While this is greater than 100, This is simply we write a while loop like this in a SQL command, right? So what here we are doing is we are first declaring the variable, and then we are assigning a value to a variable, and this is my evaluation expression
Okay.
condition which I want it, like how many times I want to loop here. So here I want to loop it.
Mm,
The looping comes under, like, it should be a less than greater than equals to 100. Okay, it should be less than greater than equals to
mm,
100. So 100 times it will take a loop of this. So after each
okay.
and every loop, what happens is the variable, I'm incrementing the variable with 1.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is what we do while we while we do a while loop in a SQL Server. The same thing we'll be
Mm,
doing it here. So here the initial expression is the assigning a value. Evaluation
okay.
expression is this. This is my evaluation expression.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this is my assigning expression,
Increment.
incrementing.
Okay.
Okay, so these three parts are, this is what it is done. And if I say okay, variable 1 is not there, let me create a variable. Hmm, variable 1, let it be integer.
Mm,
So it has taken, right? No more warnings. So
okay.
I'm initializing the expression, I'm evaluating my expression, and then I'm incrementing, assigning the expression. Now what it does is this data flow task will be executed 100 times right now.
Mm-hmm. Mm, yes, ma'am.
Okay, that's it. Whatever task is there inside a for loop container, it will be executed the number of times you put it here in the evaluation expression. That's it. It's a simple thing for loop. There are
Okay.
no more properties in this.
Mm-hmm.
So this is what I meant for loop. This container runs a control flow repeatedly by checking the conditional expression. That's it. So if for example, a package can send a different email message 7 times, 3 times every
Mm,
day, like that. It's just a repeating task every time. So in that case, what I can put the task into my for loop container, and then I can create an evaluation expression like this, and then I can execute it. Okay.
okay.
Now, if I have a folder, so suppose I have a folder. In my folder, I have 100 files. So now
Okay.
I want to like load all the files data into my SQL Server database. We saw that in from data
Mm,
flow task, I can have a one source at a time, and then it will be loaded into one destination. But what now
okay.
I want to do is I have a number of files. It should detect how
Mm,
many number of files are there in my folder, and it should loop through every file and then load the file data into my destination table. Okay,
okay.
so looping through each and every file in a folder. So what should I do? I need to use one more loop, that is for each loop.
Okay.
So what does this for each loop will be doing? Before going into here, I'll show you the. So for each loop will run a control repeatedly using an enumerator. So it will be there. There are number of types of enumerators. Which type we want? Like how do we want to retrieve those files in the folder? Is it a table for table input? Is it a folder input? So what is my input over there? So even I can
Okay.
loop through all the records in a table also. So what is my input type? Is it a
Hmm.
folder, like file system folder, or is it a table, SQL Server table,
Okay.
wherein I have a number of records? So it will ask me for the input type of enumerator, and then we have to configure those properties. So for the for loop is okay. For each loop, we have a different types of enumerators, like for each item enumerator, for each file. So what does for each item in the enumerator does is it will loop over set of items that can be defined manually. So if I go and select item enumerator, let's select here item. So by default, it has
Hmm.
taken item enumerator. So we can define an items here. Items means the columns. So like this. So I can define the items here. So only though it will loop through those items itself. Whatever I define here, it will loop through only those items.
Okay.
Okay. So regularly
Ma'am.
what we use is, yes, regularly what we'll be using is the file enumerator. That means the folder one which I was talking about. I'll go into my folder. Yeah,
Hmm.
you're telling something.
Nothing.
Hmm. Let me go through C drive, Microsoft. It's I'm taking something called. So what I've done is I've selected one folder here. So here
Hmm.
the input is my folder. So it will check how
Okay.
many files are there in this folder, and it will loop through each and every file. And suppose I want
Okay.
to specifically put, or I want only the dot text files. I want to consider only doc Excel files. I want to have only consider only SQL files. Even that I can specify with
Hmm.
here dot txt.
Okay.
If I put dot txt, and if my folder contains Excel files also, it will not consider those files. It will only consider
Hmm.
dot txt files in that folder. Okay. Even I can specify the extension of the files here. Okay. And
Okay.
one more property is, and if I put dot means it will consider all the files irrespective of their extensions. Every file will be loaded and looped into it. And one
Okay.
more property
How
is
we
the
can,
name. Yes, yes.
ma'am, how we can create bulk files in,
Your voice is breaking.
for example, if I, yeah, for example, if the table have 100 records, ma'am.
Mm-hmm.
Hello.
Yeah.
If the table have 100 records, I want to create one flat file for each record.
Yeah, that we can do it. That like that we have to like take it as a different enumerator type, because at that point of time we have an input as a table itself, not a folder. Okay,
Okay.
that also I'll be telling you after this. So at now,
Okay.
I'm assuming that my input is a folder and a
Okay.
files in it. So I can retrieve the file name, the file and the extension, wherein I can store it in the further purpose. I can store it in a variable. And
Mhm.
if I want to traverse into subfolders also, like if I have a subfolder inside a folder and I want to look into the subfolders also, I want to loop into the files, right? Whatever there in the subfolders, I can check this. If I don't have subfolders, it's okay. But if we have a subfolders and there are files inside it, then we can check this. So there is a variable mapping over it. Put a variable like this, index. So index 0 means it's the first column of the table, or the first column of the selection, or the first column of the result set. That is index 0 means. Okay. So,
Okay.
so this is what we can do with file enumerator. So if I
Okay.
go into other enumerator, let's go into a ADO enumerator. What does ADO enumerator is? It's a tables. So you were talking of right now, a table is the input right now. Okay, here I can select variable, my source variable. The variable will have a table, means a number of records inside it. Now I can put, like, if I want to have all the tables in the variables, or I want to have only the rows in the tables. If I want to loop through the rows in my tables, I'll consider this. So
Okay.
in your scenario, you mentioned it. This is a property we have to configure. The variable, the ADO object variable, and the rows in all the tables.
Okay.
And the destination should be a flat file. In the data flow task, the destination should be a flat.
Okay. They are dynamically creating files.
Yeah, it will create a dynamic tool. You just try it once today. It will create a dynamic file. And here also we have the same thing, variable mapping. So this is one of, so normally in the real-time scenarios, we will be using a for each file enumerator or file for each ADO enumerator. So there is one more enumerator called ADO.NET.
Ma'am,
Yes.
can I suggest the name of the flat files for dynamically creating flat files?
Yeah, you can everything put in a dynamic way. You can put it a variable also. You can put it. You can hard code your file names.
Okay.
So file will not. It will. The SSIS engine will not decide the file names. You have to decide. You have to give a name to it, to your file. And if you want to give a dynamically while executing itself, you want to give a name. Then that also you can give it.
Yeah. I'm taking one particular column as a name, file name.
Column as a file name. Yeah, you can do it. But the column name should be stored in some variable or parameter. You have to
Okay.
store that column name in somewhere, then you can give it. You cannot tell that they take this column name as your file name. You have to store that column name, consider that column name, store it in some variable, and give the variable name as your file name. You can do it then. So
Okay.
here we have one more .NET schema row set enumerator, wherein we want to open schema information. If we want to loop over schema information, like if suppose we have the default schema is DBO, but if we have other schemas also, ABC dot, if we have like this, and if we want to loop in into the schema names, so we will be using a area.net schema row set. Instead of getting writing a query and getting the schema names from our system tables, we can directly use this enumerator, which is inbuilt. So it will only loop through schema only, nothing else. It will only look into the schemas which are available in your database. Okay. So there is one more enumerator called variable enumerator, wherein it will loop over items stored in an SSIS variable. So we can create one area variable there, and if we have one like 10 records in a variable, 10 items in a variable, if I want to loop into over those items, I can use this variable. And if I have a XML input, and I want to loop over those result sets of an XML, then I'll be using a node list enumerator. So node list enumerator will derive the nodes from a XML. So whenever we have an input as a XML, we'll go into a node list enumerator. Okay. So in the same case, if we want to have a SMO, SMO here means a SQL Server management object, such as we have a servers. If we want to loop in through different servers we have, we can use directly with this for each SMO enumerator. And if we have a Hadoop distribution file system, and if we want to loop over all the files inside Hadoop file system, we have a separately specifically for Hadoop, that is HDFS file enumerator. So these are all things we can use on the basis of our requirement. But in the real time, what we use is we use either file enumerator or ADO enumerator or a variable enumerator. So these three we use regularly. Yes.
For file enumerator, can you explain the destination?
Destination. Okay. Yes. For the file enumerator, here I'm not configuring any destination. It will just, this is my configuration of my input.
Okay.
This is only the configuration of for each loop for the input of files. Okay, so
okay.
Like I have created, suppose I have a folder, show you, right? So I have a folder Microsoft under C drive. So whatever files are there in this Microsoft folder, it will loop through it. So destination doesn't come here. It is not dependent on the destination. This is just the configuration of the input itself. Okay. So destination will be coming under inside this loop. What we want to do with those files. Okay. So here in the destination, we have called variable. Variable. So I can select a variable here, and it will directly, if the table is a destination, SQL Server OLDB destination, I can directly configure that here. So this will be similar. What you want is, what is the scenario you wanted to do it? Tell me. So you want to look into each and every files in a folder, or you want to have all the records in a table into a folder, like in a file. What you want to do? We can do it tomorrow morning.
Okay.
Tell me tomorrow morning.
My requirement is, if I have a table, the table have 10 students of information, ma'am.
Okay.
I want to create a flat file for each student.
Okay, so tomorrow I'll just note it down so that I don't forget it for tomorrow's class. Note it down. So my input is a table. Okay, which has records, a student's information.
Student's information. One of the column is student name.
Okay. So you want,
based on student name, I would like to create the flat files for each student.
Yeah. So files with respect to student name. So this is what the requirement you want to see. So tomorrow, before starting the class, we'll go into this.
Okay. Ma'am, today variables and parameters not completed now.
Yeah, that if it is not completed, I'll continue with the next class.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. So today only these container and task is completed. Variables and parameters, breakpoint, checkpoints. We can cover it tomorrow after this. I'll show you this, and then we can cover this. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah.
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah. So if I forget it, that is why I've noted it down so that I don't forget tomorrow.
Mm.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Bye.
Yeah. Bye.